Welcome to the Salt Strong Fishing Podcast. Salt Strong has been helping saltwater anglers catch more fish in less time for 10 years and is now the largest and most trusted saltwater fishing community in America. If you want to catch more saltwater fish, then keep listening. If you want to speed up your fish catching results even faster, then join the private insider community at saltstrong.com. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Your harvest. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, like diamonds, back again with Salt Strong Unchurched. Man, this is going to be a fun one. This is a powerful one. And I'm going to start it off with the Proverbs that was in my daily Bible this morning, which got me all fired up to do this podcast. So it was Proverbs 10:5, and it's, "He who gathers crops in the summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son." Let me repeat. He who gathers crops in the summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. So we were in Georgia recently. If you listened to the last podcast, yes, we made the trip with our friends. No one else got COVID except for Shauna. It all worked. My wife's worry was all for naught, kind of as I predicted. I hate to be right, but I am really glad that we were able to make the trip. If you didn't hear what happened, go listen to last week's Unchurched. It was all about how much we worry and how worry is bringing us down, holding us back. And there is not much good that comes from worry. And usually it ends up spinning off anxiety and fears. And long story short, don't worry. Give it all to God. So anyhow, let's get back into this story. So we made it to Georgia and had a great time. And we met another family while we were there. And one evening at dinner, we were all just, kind of chatting, getting to meet them and their family. And kids were all out playing, and we're talking about just, how we all met each other. And I won't bore you with this story because I know a lot of you have heard it, but I was on a date with another girl at a Braves game, and I went to the restroom. So excuse myself from the date, and went to the restroom. And on the way back, I ended up running into this girl that I went to college with at Georgia Tech, who wasn't a good friend, but someone I knew. We had classes together, so it was someone who was just someone I recognized, and she recognized me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Joe, great to see you." And it's been forever. So this is not someone I have her number. This is not someone I've kept in touch with. This is someone that I just knew from years ago. Now, she had a friend with her that was standing right next to her, and she's like, "Hey, this is my friend Lauren." And I was like, "Oh, great to meet you." And chatted for just, I don't know, all of 6 minutes, certainly under 10, but more than 2. So chatted for a little while, caught up, and I was like, "Hey, I really got to go." Didn't tell him I was on a date, but I was like, "Hey, I really got to go. Got some friends waiting for me down there." So went back to my date, and no lie, the entire rest of the date in this Braves game, I was thinking about this girl Lauren that I had just met through my old friend from Georgia Tech. So once again, to recap, went to the bathroom, randomly ran into a girl that I went to Georgia Tech with, had some classes with. She had her friend with her named Lauren. Never met Lauren before, never seen her. I just got to chat with him for a couple minutes. So I'm now thinking about this girl Lauren, and I'm like, man, there's something about her. It was her smile, her eyes, just something just like sucked me right in. So that night, after the date's over, I'm thinking about this Lauren girl still. And all I knew was that she's friends with this girl. Her name was Chi, that I went to school with. And so I'm like, all right, well, how do I get Chi's number to find out if this girl Lauren is, single, married, what her deal is? I got to find out about this Lauren girl. There's something about her. It was like magnetic to me. And nothing happened that night. And then the next morning, it hit me. I was like, all right, well, I know she was friends with Jackie. Jackie married my buddy Doug. So I'm going to call Doug. So I called my buddy Doug, whose wife was Jackie. I didn't have her number either. And so I was like, hey, man, do you mind talking to your wife and seeing if she can call Chi, because I believe they're still friends, and finding out what this girl Lauren's deal is. Some blonde girl named Lauren that was with Chi last night at a Braves game. So I waited an hour or so. Doug calls me back and he's like, hey, good news. Lauren is single and she's here in town. She lives over in like Savannah, Georgia area. And she's here in town for a girl's birthday party. And they're all going out in this area of Buckhead tonight. Buckhead is an area of Atlanta where all the restaurants and bars and all that are. So it's now like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 in the morning. This is now a Saturday morning. And all I know is that this girl, Lauren, is single, and she is going to be in Buckhead with a bunch of girls for a birthday party. So I round up a couple of my buddies, and I was like, all right, guys, we got to find this guy. We got to find this girl, Lauren. And all I know is she's going to be in this area. And if you know anything about Atlanta and Buckhead, it's a big area. When someone tells you just an area, not like a specific bar or restaurant, it's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes. So we get there at, I don't know, 10 o'clock, 9, 10. Yeah, let's just say it was 9 o'clock. So we get there at 9-ish, which for Buckhead, back in the day, it was open till 4. That was still kind of early. And so had a couple beers, just kind of going from bar to bar, and they don't know what she looks like. So only I know what she looks like. So this makes it even worse. My wingmen are really just there to kind of help once we find them. So I'm like looking, 9 to 10 goes by, 10 to 11 goes by, 11 to 12 goes by. Now I got a buzz and we're having a beer at each place, and we're literally just bouncing around, and I'm doing my best to find them. It's now past midnight. It's getting closer to 1 in the morning. Now, still haven't found this girl named Lauren. And I was like, all right, they got to be here somewhere. For all I know, they could have gone home already, but like, I was not giving up. And it's now like, I don't know, 1:15. So somewhere between 1 and 2. And I was up in this, it's an area where there's some music, and I don't even remember the name of the place. I'm blanking on it right now, but it's in Buckhead, and it's got a couple different levels. And I was up on the top level, just kind of looking down at the dance floor, and there's some little tables behind the dance floor. They're serving, food and drinks. And all of a sudden I was like, I think that's her. And then I saw Chi, the girl I knew, and I was like, oh, that's definitely her. And so like, I'm super excited now. Once again, been there for 4 or 5 hours in Buckhead, having, beers and going from bar to bar, trying to find this girl. And I walked down there. This is the best part of the story. It wasn't funny then, but it's funny now. And I go up to her and tap on her shoulder. I was like, hey, Lauren, I met you last night at the Braves game. And she's like, oh my gosh, yeah. She's like, it's Jeff, right? I was like, no, it's not Jeff, it's Joe. That's how we got started. So at least she remembered my face. But yeah, she called me Jeff, which was pretty funny. And we chatted for a little bit. And I said, hey, I'd love to get your number. And she gave me her number, and ended up calling her. I waited a day. That was the old school. You don't sound too desperate. So I think I waited a day and then called her. And we had a great conversation, like talked for like an hour. And ended up asking her on a date that next week, the next weekend. And we've been together since. So that was the story. And as we shared it with this couple, kind of circling back, they were just like, probably like maybe like you, like, man, dude, you don't mess around. And it ties in with this, right? He who sleeps during harvest. This is my harvest season. I would have missed that entire thing. It would have been so easy for me to give up and not pursue that, right? I mean, I could have given up at 10:30 after an hour and a half of searching for this girl that may or may not even like me or remember me. There was a million things that could have gone wrong, and yet somehow God had it all lined up. But it took me taking action, right? It's one of the themes here is taking action to make all of that happen. And even getting the number and following up and going on a date with her. Now I look at my life is completely changed for the positive. We've got 3 beautiful kids and just a really great life together. And she's become my best friend and confidant, and just I can't imagine my life without her. And think about your own life, like how you met maybe your spouse or got your job or things that happened that had you not taken one extra step, right? Had you gone to bed, he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. Had you just not pursued it and taken action, how different your life would be. It's really wild to think about that. And I started asking myself, well, man, are there other things that I might be ignoring in my life that could change my life, right? Because I could have ignored that. I was on a date. I mean, right? I could have easily ignored that. I had every reason in the world to go maybe think more about the date I was on. Um, and I could have completely ignored that random encounter with a girl coming back from the bathroom. But I could, there's something there. I was just like, ah. And it wasn't like a God spoke to me and said, this is the girl you're going to marry. I never heard that. But there was just something there. There was this little spark. And I was like, man, I got to pursue this. It was something there. And another really, really cool one is Z-Man. So we had this idea of Slam Shady. If you don't know the story on the Salt Strong side of things, we came up with this color called Slam Shady. So we had really read about it in a book talking about two different books talking about the best color that can kind of work anywhere. And it was essentially a white, slash pearl colored lure and having some sort of gold or silver flakes. And this is all science based, in terms of something that can kind of work everywhere and takes on the color of the water, just like a bait fish does. Like a pinfish can look a whole lot different in dirty water versus very, very clean, pristine water. And the only lure color that does that is white. And you want a little bit of flash, not too much, just a little bit of that gold and silver. So that really is Slam Shady. It's a white lure with gold and the perfect amount, by the way, of gold and silver flakes. So we had the idea, and I'm like, oh man, we don't know anything about it, and everyone's going to tell us no. And I finally got up the courage to call Z-Man and kind of got passed around. I finally get to the president, so I'm now talking to the president, Daniel Nussbaum of Z-Man. And Z-Man's a pretty big business, pretty big company, and I pitch him on the idea, and I'm nervous because I was like, oh man, he's going to tell me I'm crazy. What do we know? We're just a little fishing club. We weren't doing tackle at the time, right? I mean, now it seems crazy, but at the time we had zero tackle. We had nothing except just we were teaching fishing online. And he actually says, you know what, Joe, I like the idea. Let's do it. We'll create your first Slam Shady. And obviously it wasn't, we didn't give them unlimited exclusive rights. We're still able to do our own, which we obviously did. But that was what kicked it all off. And had I not made that call, and trust me, there was many times going through my head that I was not going to make that call. And I think I even postponed it just out of nerve and oh man, they're gonna laugh at me, and even getting passed around, I'm like, oh, this is just gonna be a dead end. But finally got a hold of him, and we did it. And we still today, I mean, we own Slam Shady. It's a registered trademark with the USPTO, and we get paid a nice check every quarter. They send us called mailbox money. They send us thousands of dollars in the mail pretty consistently because of that, because they're still using it on their own lures. So we own the name, they license it from us, and it's now in all over America. It's in every Walmart, it's in every Bass Pro Shops. It's in India, it's in Australia. So we got people using Slam Shady in India and Australia, which is really, really funny, all because of that one phone call. And now if you look at Salt Strong, I mean, a big chunk of our business is tackle, and a big chunk of it is Slam Shady. That was where it all got started. And so that was just me, once again, taking action. That was my season, or our season, of harvest. And I could have slept, right? And sleep doesn't mean just falling asleep. It just means not taking action, right? It means not doing what you know you're supposed to do to harvest, right? If you have the opportunity and you pass on it, you're sleeping. And so that was just an eye-opening when I look back how much our lives have changed because of that one phone call. Just like me pursuing my now wife during that one evening, my entire life changed because of that. So what are you ignoring that maybe you kind of have that little urge or that nudge, like, yeah, I should probably do this, and we start making excuses, right? But yeah, who knows how it would go, or they might laugh at me, or it might just not work out. But what if it does? how different could your life be? Maybe this could be something that changes your life, your kids' life, your grandkids' lives. I mean, you just absolutely never know. One of my favorite stories, it was the story of the match. Do you guys know the story of how the match was created? It was an English chemist. His name was John Walker, not the Johnny Walker with the alcohol, but John Walker, and it was in the early 1800s. And he was a chemist, so he was an inventor essentially. And just imagine an inventor back in the 1800s in England. You could probably even picture them, right? And in an old laboratory and just stuff everywhere and unorganized. And he was trying to make something with these chemicals, and that had nothing to do with a match. Like he had never even thought of a match because it wasn't invented, right? This is not even anything with fire. And he had this failed experiment, and he was basically putting all these different chemicals together for something completely different, and he was putting them on the end of these sticks. And he was putting the sticks, basically just kind of throwing them away. And one of the sticks, when it hit the hearthstone, when it hit a certain rock, it actually started making little sparks. And so he's like, "Oh, that's weird." And so he hit it again with this stick that happened to be covered in chemicals, once again from a failed experiment. These are things he's throwing away. And he hit it again, and he's like, "Whoa, that was a good spark." And then he, I guess, changed it up a little bit more, and kept testing it and realized, holy smokes! And he had one that burst into flame. So imagine this big chemical that's now dried. It was a bad experiment. Hits it against the hearthstone, and it now bursts into flames. And he's like, "Whoa, I might have something here." But he also could have said, "Oh man, this is dangerous. Another failed experiment, right? The thing's going to catch the whole house on fire." But no, he felt that little nudge. And once again, no one had heard of a match, right? It sounds so simple now, but at the time that was impossible. Literally, people laughed at him like, you don't have a thing called a match where you can hit it against a rock and it starts fire. Like that would change the whole world, right? I mean, think about how much work they had to do to make a fire back then. And yet he went forward. He took action. This was his time to harvest, and he didn't sleep on it. He said, "No, I'm going to try to pursue this." And he did. And now we all can thank this guy, John Walker, from 1820s or whenever it was, that he actually took action and took that next step, once again, on a failed chemistry experiment, and is now something that I don't think we could live without. And it's how, even people in remote areas are able to start a fire pretty quickly, all because he took action. So I think that is the question that we all have to ask ourselves is, what are we ignoring that could change our life? What are we ignoring that maybe we're so close on, or maybe looks like a failed experiment, right? Maybe even it looks like a failed relationship. The thing, even with my wife, Lauren, could have gone differently. I could have not found her. And maybe what if it took 2 times to find her? What if I had stayed up till 1:30 in the morning, never saw her, and then just gave up, or, called her friend again and said, "Hey, what's this, what's Lauren's number? I'd love to call her and start a conversation." Like, not to say that could have happened to me. Obviously it didn't, and it turned out differently. But when you kind of feel that nudge, why stop? Well, why stop at all if you feel like, yeah, man, I'm supposed to talk to this person, or I'm supposed to do this. I know from my personal experience, it's so easy to put things off. And what usually is the problem is ourselves. It's our head, right? It's our heart knows what we need to do. And it's usually our head that starts basically throwing up these roadblocks, right? Or objections. And then we start talking back to ourselves inside of our head, right? We all do it. You don't think I'm crazy, but we all do it, right? Even if though it's subconsciously, we're not having a full-on conversation in front of the mirror with ourselves, but subconsciously we're doing it. Start making excuses in our head, and these are once again objections, right? And then, if and every situation is different, but usually we start either agreeing with it or disagreeing with it, and most of the time we tend to agree with our head. And then next thing you know, the day goes by, And then a week goes by, and a month goes by, and even years go by, and we still haven't done the thing that we kind of know that we should. So what is it for you? This has got me pumped up because I know there's things that I need to do. There's calls that I need to make. There's connections that I need to pursue that I haven't. Now I'll share some more here in the future because I'm going to do them first, and I can tell you about them later. But yeah, there's some things that I know deep down. Yeah, I should probably do it. And I've just kind of put it off for a million different reasons. And I remember, and I wrote about this in Fishing for Happiness. It was my father-in-law. Another wife story here. They have a little farm in Georgia as well, and we were there, and he was showing me the whole place. And at some point he won't be around, and so he was telling me all about it. And Lauren and I will, and her two brothers will, I assume, inherit this little farmhouse in the farm. And he was walking me around, just telling me about it and trying to give me some life lessons. And he did something I never forget. And he has a whole, I don't know, it's a couple hundred acres of pine trees that, they get the pine needles and rake those up and sell the pine needles every year. And then obviously when the time comes and the trees are mature enough, they'll cut them down and sell them for timber. And so he's like, Joe, do you know the best time to plant a pine tree? And, I'm thinking like summer, spring. I thought he was asking me like best season. I was like, I don't know. Tom, I have no idea. And he goes, 20 years ago. And he goes, because, they start maturing in that 20 to 30, 40 years, depending on if it's long leaf or loblolly. I'm learning all about these pine trees, right? There's a bunch of different types, and they all mature at different times. But in general, he says, Joe, the best time to plant pine tree is 20 years ago, because now it's mature and you can make money from it. He's like, got it. He goes, the second best time to plant a pine tree? And I'm still like, is he talking about spring or fall? He goes, today. He's like, yeah, we all wish we know we should have done something a long time ago, but the second best time is to do it right now. And that wasn't just a lesson about pine trees, folks. That was a lesson about life, right? So if there was something that you were supposed to do, or a conversation you were supposed to have with a loved one that you've been putting off, the best time to do it was when you should have done it a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. Second best time is right now, today. So that's it. I would urge you, if there is something that's been weighing you down or on your chest, or something you should do. And many times it is a conversation. I mean, my two examples, it was me getting on a phone call that I was scared to death to make because I thought they were going to laugh at me about this thing called, imagine that. I'm calling a guy, I've never done lures before in my life. And I'm calling a guy who may or may not even know us and saying, hey, I want to do a lure called Slam Shady. I was already envisioning him laugh at me, right? And even with this girl, Lauren, I met her at a Braves game on the way back from the bathroom. I had a billion excuses to not essentially take that action. And even the phone call I made after that, is she going to think I'm a creep once she finds out that I tracked her down for 5 or 6 hours in Buckhead, just to meet her? There's a million excuses I could have made, and some of them are pretty valid. But no, this is the time to take action. He who sleeps during the harvest is a disgraceful son. So if you feel like there's something that you should have done or need to do coming up soon, don't put it off. Just do it. And I found that there have been some that haven't gone my way. But man, it feels so good, and it's just so much easier once you're in action to just continue to keep taking action and keep doing things and failing forward, right? Learning from every single small little lesson. So anyhow, I will end it there. I hope this was helpful. Hope you enjoyed the stories, and I cannot wait to hear your stories of whatever it is that you need to be doing. The phone call, maybe it's just a text, maybe it's something that's an apology, or someone who did you wrong that you just need to make amends with, or a family member. I've heard all kinds of stories, and I've seen all kinds of things from even, family members that kind of go their separate ways and have fights and arguments over money and estates, getting passed down. I mean, all these little things that, man, God does not want us to kill and destroy relationships over things like that. And most of the time, all it takes to at least start rebuilding and repairing is a simple phone call and an apology. So whatever it is for you guys, I hope you find it. I hope this reaches the right person. I was praying quite a bit before this one that this reaches the right person or people that need to hear it. So I hope this. I don't hope. I know it does, because God has done it every time, and I always hear just the most amazing stories from many times complete strangers of man, I felt like you were talking to me on this one. So no, that's not me. That is God doing his amazing work. So love you guys. If you want to hit me up with questions, prayer requests, stories, anything, my private email, Joe@saltstrong.com. Otherwise, I will talk to you on the next episode.
Want more fishing tips, shortcuts, and tools so you can catch more fish per trip? Then head over to saltstrong.com now and join the movement. Tight lines, and thanks for listening.